I think we're live.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Let me look on the other thing. Oh, there's people there, dude.
Oh no, what?
Yeah, we're live. We're live.
Well, we want to welcome you back to Trampled Underfoot podcast. The adventure continues. Um, we were talking behind the scenes, Mark and I, just now, and I was thinking, Mark says, we always, we always have all these different topics and stuff, and I was like, man, what should we talk about? And right now, when I press the button, Mark, I just like 10 things came to mind. I swear to you.
Okay, cool.
Like 10 things just came to mind, like back to back of craziness.
Well, it's like I tell people, this is unscripted. Even we don't know what we're going to say.
That's right. And it's very hard to sound sort of like mediocre intelligent using that method that we use, but we somehow, well, I'm not going to speak for me, but I think it kind of works out.
Yeah, you know what? I quit trying to act intelligent because it's a losing battle. I figure it this way. This podcast is not a destination, it's a journey. So if you think we're going to lead you to a logical conclusion on something, sorry, bring a lunch.
Yeah.
Stay for the day.
I mean, a lot of good stuff, historical stuff, and just things that we've picked up along the way. I do want to say though, today I went to the Publix supermarket, and dude, I they didn't have clam chowder, but they had the chili, which I like. So I got the tub. So like, there's one that's like yay high, and then there's like the tub. And dude, I'm not gonna lie, I'm ashamed of it. I ate the whole damn thing.
Jeez.
I ate the whole damn thing. It's just every little morsel that I tasted of the chili with the sauce floating with was like another invitation to get another scoop. And I didn't stop, dude.
So poor Vigo is sitting back there with a fan, right?
Oh man. Well, anytime I eat, he'll eat. But I'll tell you what, dude, the bloating and like just filled to the brim with, it's just, I'm like, it's too much. My gullet is full.
I'm with you. I cooked a bunch of homemade salami on the smoker earlier today, and there was a little bit of room left on one of the grills, and I'm like, what do we got to go on the smoker? I got a couple of pork chops. Okay, so we seasoned up a couple of pork chops and cooked them, and oh man, yeah. Pork chops, homemade mac and cheese,
oh man,
asparagus, cantaloupe. We were set.
Well, I'm really ashamed because I did that a few hours ago, and I swear I think I could fit in some more food. I mean, it's bad, dude. I'm gonna have to stop with that.
Well, I got ice cream for later, but that's another subject. I don't experiment with ice cream. I'm in full scale research. That's my one true vice is ice cream. So,
oh yeah.
Right, well,
well, what's the ice cream what's your favorite one?
It's a local creamery here. I'm Dairy. Okay. From up in Roseburg. I'm Dairy, and they have about 6 flavors that I truly enjoy. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarts in 5. It used to be half gallons, and that's one bone to pick with folks here. What happened to the half gallons of ice cream, y'all? We got to stop reducing the sizes here. First, they dropped it from a half gallon to like 1 quart and 3/4. Now we're at 1.5 quarts. What's going on here, gang?
You know what
they're doing? More for a half gallon, but give me a half gallon.
They're trying to Europeanize us. They're trying to turn us into Europe. They're trying to give us normal portions, and that don't work.
I eat the same amount. I just buy more cartons. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
The store that I buy my ice cream from sells it in 3-gallon, the commercial cardboard tubs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember going to the ice cream counter in the store, and they, kind of sort of like Baskin Robbins, and they'd get out the whatever cone you wanted and give you 1 scoop, 2 scoop, however many scoops you wanted.
Yeah.
And they had in those big cardboard 3-gallon tubs. Well, this store sells them,
Oh
and
man.
it sells my favorite flavors too.
Which are
One is called caramel cone, vanilla ice cream with pieces of waffle cone
oh,
dipped in
man.
chocolate and a big caramel ribbon in it.
Oh, dude, it just that's fantastic,
Yeah,
dude.
oh, it's excellent stuff. It really is. Then Rocky Road ice cream, and I don't mean the kind of Rocky Road that has this strip of marshmallow fluff in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it has the miniature marshmallows and the nuts and the chocolate ice cream, like it used
There's
to be.
good balance.
Yes,
Yeah,
very good
'cause
balance.
some of them aren't that good.
That's right. And then let's see, I've got strawberry cheesecake, and we bought. What else did we get? Um, okay, we have 2 cartons of the other one, which is my favorite. It's called Chocolate Brownie Thunder,
Oh man.
and it is chocolate ice cream with little brownie squares, chunks, and um, nuts all mixed in. But it has a swirl of a chocolate. It's not a hard chocolate like on a candy bar,
Yeah.
but it's not a chocolate syrup either. It's solid, and in that I mean you can take the spoon and kind of cut off a piece, but when you put it in your mouth, it starts to melt, and oh man, is that good! My
Is
favorite.
it to die for?
Yeah, proudly.
Well, I'll tell you my favorite ones traditionally. My favorite ones was has always been rum raisin. I just love the taste of rum raisin ice cream. It's just so
Yep.
freaking badass. I like butter pecan,
Hmm.
and it's funny, but here in Miami, I don't know if you guys get that out there or the audience, but Miami has a sort of different thing. It's got the
Sure,
Latin sort of angle to things.
sure.
So you'll have ice creams, and I'm not saying sherbets, which they do have as well, but I'm talking about mango ice cream,
Hmm.
like exotic stuff like
Yep,
that, right?
yep.
So you guys get that too?
Yeah, you get a mango gelato. You'll get a mango sherbet, or sometimes ice creams, but those are usually in the little 1 pint personal size.
Right.
We get, I mean, out here we have, because we're Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of blackberry, boysenberry, raspberry, marionberry, which is a real fruit. Look it up, Marionberry,
Oh
not
wow.
not the mayor of DC. Even huckleberry at times, but a lot of the Pacific Northwest fruits. And usually it's either a ribbon, like a Revel ribbon in vanilla ice cream, or sometimes that is the flavor. It's all blended in, mixed up together. But yeah, I'm a true connoisseur of ice cream. I take it very seriously. I think you have to pick your vices with care and be true to them. I like rum raisin too. In fact, one of my favorite places we live to experiment, I've been doing this for many, many years. I'm a trained professional. When we lived over in Hawaii, there was a local company, Dave's Ice Cream. And my favorite combination was we would go to one little restaurant and buy coconut turnovers,
Oh wow.
warm them up, and then macadamia nut ice cream on that.
Oh
Oh,
crazy.
man. Oh, man. God, it was good. In fact, now I'm jonesing for one. I want one.
There is a an ice cream that I had for the first time. I was a kid, and I went up to Busch Gardens in Tampa. That's a theme park, and it's also the Anheuser Busch, or was, I don't even know if it's still around. Like their beer production or whatnot,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and they had this little ice cream, shop like you'd have at Disney World, like little stores that. And they had peanut butter ice cream. Oh
Oh,
man,
yeah.
the first time I tasted that was so
Mhm.
awesome. And cheers to John.
Mhm.
Um,
Inside humor.
inside humor. Yeah, but I'll tell you, the peanut butter ice cream is freaking awesome, dude. So yeah, so I did get ice cream as well. Not big on all the sweets, like as I used to be when I was a kid. I don't have the same, but I'll have every now and then.
I don't either, but ice cream is that one exception. And if you want something really good, you like peanut butter ice cream, cool. If you can find a place that has them, try a peanut butter milkshake.
Oh man.
Or you can make your own. Just vanilla ice cream, a couple of tablespoons of peanut butter, some milk, put it in the blender and whip it up yourself.
Heck yeah.
Peanut. I just grossed out my wife. She's watching. I just grossed her out because she's not much for peanut butter. But
Peanut butter is a basic food group.
oh yeah,
It's like up there on the pyramid somewhere,
uh-huh.
not on the bottom.
No, yep. Peanut butter and grape jelly. One of the 4 major food groups right there.
So so I was gonna so I was thinking, and earlier on I was sort of mentioning to you, well, for a topic, one among many that we can have, how about embarrassing? Do you have a super embarrassing moment as, kid, young adult, or heck, even, recently, or just a cringeworthy to self moment that you're like, oh my goodness, did that happen? I've got one, but I'm curious to know if
Yeah,
I've got many.
I have one that happened when I was 16 years old. And it's cringeworthy for me because, of course, about half of the people I knew were watching when it happened.
Oh
So,
wow!
stuff like this never happens when you're by yourself. But it was when I got my motorcycle license, and I bought my Triumph. And the Triumph, the day I bought it, the day I brought it home, this thing was Triumph in name only. The engine was Triumph. Everything else was aftermarket on it. And it was an old 60s chopper. And I can throw a picture up on the Trampled Underfoot Facebook page when we get done here. It was an old, it had a rigid frame on it, and the king and queen seat, and straight pipes, or excuse me, straight bars, and kicked out Springer front end. And I thought I was the coolest thing on 2 wheels. And the day I brought it home, coming home on it, where we lived, you came off of the paved road and turned onto a dirt road. It was all gravel. And me being a hot shot, you could hear that thing from a mile away. Me being a hot shot, I come around the corner, got off of that paved road, and I goosed it to go up the hill, completely and totally forgetting that I was transitioning onto gravel.
Oh man!
And the tail end came out from under me, and I laid it on its side and did about 6 loops sideways.
Holy smoke!
And kind of came to a stop facing our house. And there's everybody looking out the window. My brother's out in the driveway, and everybody just started busting up laughing.
Oh, dude!
I got up, and of course, I lifted the bike up, and it scraped up one side and dented up the muffler and the pipes on the right side.
Oh man!
And it just, I kind of beat red, picked it up, and of course, it wouldn't start. So I had to push it into the driveway.
Even worse.
And, like I said, nothing like that ever happens when you're by yourself.
And you were vibing off the frickin', you were kicking butt down the road, and then the stupid gravel, dude. Damn, dude, that is embarrassing.
Well, it wasn't the gravel's fault. It was not the gravel's fault.
Well, no, but geez, dude. And so they're all looking at you. You look up and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh man.
Do you have another one?
I think that was enough. Other than that, I mean, it's all typical motorcycle stuff. After that, you can hop on a motorcycle in your driveway and start it on the first kick every time. And the number of kicks it's going to take you to get that motorcycle started is in direct proportion to how many people will watch you trying to start it.
Oh wow!
If you got more than 10 people watch you trying to start a motorcycle, just
it's not going to start.
Don't even put the key in it. Go back in and get something to drink. Because
that's why people. That's how people get drunk, man. They're not going to go out there and start their bikes, until
Exactly. Not with
there's no
people
one around.
watching, they won't. So,
Well, so mine, I don't know if I've told you this one before. I probably have, but some folks might not have heard of it. And so one time it was me. I was 16 years old, and my girlfriend and I were young, 16, 15, 16. But her cousin, female cousin, was 18, like right at that age, and her boyfriend was like 21. And their cousins, and her cousin invited us to their house or to his house to hang out and watch movies on VCR. And so we all went, and I'm an only child, right? So I'm not much into like big, group gatherings. I do what I do, but so we're all there, and they said, okay, everybody jump on the bed. And he has the TV there, and we're all sitting in the bed and stuff, and we have the covers and stuff. And so I have my girlfriend on one side, her cousin on my other side, and then her cousin's boyfriend at the end of the bed, and we're watching The Little Mermaid, is what it was, of all things. We're kids, and the movie had just come out on VCR, and so we're under the covers, and I'm and I'm rubbing the leg, my girlfriend's leg and stuff, and I'm like, boy, this is beautiful stuff. This leg is just, I'm watching The Little Memory, but I'm a, 16-year-old kid. I'm touching my girlfriend's leg. I'm like all, sorts of like in love. And I keep, rubbing her. And I said, oh, I'm going for her toes. Screw it. I know that's not. So I'm massaging her feet. And like really like good masseuse there, or at least I think, because I'm working that. And I look at my girlfriend, and she's totally concentrating on the movie. Like there's no reaction. And so I turn my head the other way, and her cousin is like freaking out. And at that moment, I realized I was making sweet love to her cousin's foot. I was massaging that thing like there's no tomorrow. I mean, knuckling it. Dude. And she didn't say anything because it was like 5 minutes of rubbing, and her cousin didn't even say a word. She did not say a word, dude. I was red. Nobody knew, her boyfriend nor my girlfriend, and we just started cracking up. That was one of the most embarrassing things ever, dude.
she started busting up laughing too.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that saved you. Oh man, that's hilarious.
It was very embarrassing, dude.
Oh, I bet it was. Just her reaction, her face was kind of like deer in the headlights, huh?
Oh yeah.
What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Well,
That's
I mean,
funny.
she could have at least, she could have at least said, hey, no, wrong foot, or something.
Or what are you doing?
At the very least. But she allowed it, and she said, okay, well, he's crossed the line, so just keep going. That was very embarrassing.
Man. Yeah, I doubt it. I no doubt.
Yeah. I'll never forget that, dude.
And she won't either. She's probably still telling that story. Oh man. So whatever happened, did they stay together long, or you don't know what happened with them?
With them, I think that they parted ways after a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if he ever found out, is where I was going with that?
Oh no, at the moment we started cracking up, and well, see, I don't remember exactly. I'm not going to tell you that we told them. We just started cracking up, and they both looked at us like we're crazy. And I don't remember if we explained it or not. But since they're all young, it's like here and gone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But in reality, it was like, I'm sorry. I think that the cousin, should have, for everybody's sake, said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa," and then I would have realized and stopped. But she just let me work it, man. And dude, and you have to understand, like, I think this is my girlfriend's foot, so I'm tickling it. I'm massage- I'm doing all sorts of different pressure points and shit. Oops, I said a bad word. Oopsie.
Well, that won't make the edit, which of course means that it will.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still embarrassed over it, and I'm telling it, but
No, I can't top that. I really can't top that.
actually, I can top that.
Well,
Even worse.
it just needs to be rated PG anyway.
So what are folks saying out there?
Oh, let's see. I don't know. They're talking about calm down, Jim. Um, well, anyway. So yeah, no, there's nothing I can do that would top that. I don't think I've ever made a mistake like that. Not that I can remember, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, I sure botched that one up. But
Yeah.
not really. It's an innocent, mistake. But
But I mean, where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? I mean, were you able to look her in the eye ever again, really?
yeah, we
Or
were
did
young.
it just
We were young, so it was like no big. Like, I don't want to say it's no big deal, but we were young, so it's kind of like you know what I'm saying? Like the heaviness of things isn't as
yeah.
oh, okay,
Okay.
that happened, and we keep
Okay.
going.
So she took it she thought it was funny too. I guess that's the main thing, because
I
some
don't
people
want
will
to.
laugh out of nervousness, So
I don't want to. I kind of think that she allowed it to. She said, "Oh well, hell." That's what kind of what I was. That's kind of what I was thinking, because I felt violated, and I was the guy doing the massaging.
well, yeah, it could have been worse. It could have been his foot you were playing with. So
Well, that would have. Thank goodness that he was on the other side.
yeah. So okay, well, I don't know, man. I don't know where to go from there.
You can't top that.
No, can't even approach it. Can't even approach it. I don't know. I've got this. I don't know. I don't understand. I really try like crazy not to look foolish. So I don't let myself get into situations like that. I can't talk, but I don't want want to get into situations where I
Oh,
look foolish
yeah,
like that.
dude.
So I just try to avoid stuff. So it's just like, yeah, this ain't gonna end well. I'll watch, you know.
Yeah.
So
So I'll ask you. I'll ask you this. You were watch. I had something to say about it, and it kind of springboarded. But you've been watching remodeling.
well, a little bit. I came across this video just before we went live, and in fact, you sent me the link to go live. I was about maybe 15 minutes into it. I've seen this one video keep popping up in my suggested on YouTube, just right down the side, about this place in Pembrokeshire over in the UK that's called the Big House, and it's a restoration. This guy, it's like a 400, 500-year old home that is basically a ruin, or was a ruin when this guy bought it. And he's on a quest to restore this thing and live there. So, I mean, he sold everything he had to buy the place, and it was basically a shell. And the only thing that saved him was the fact that there were several cottages on the property as well. And him and his partner, his girlfriend, they moved into one of those cottages as they're building up the place. And they've been working on it since about 2009, 2010, and at least trying to get half of it livable. And you can well imagine this is going to take a huge amount of money. Well, it's 9 years, 9, 10 years later. and I think they can live in it now,
Oh wow.
but they've kind of stalled because of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy smoke! And
And
it's 500 years.
it's thereabouts. And I found it. This was a BBC series called, oh boy, I think it was called Home Remodel or Remodel Home or something like that. Restoration Home. Restoration Home. And this was just one of the episodes that they did on it. But this whole series was based on um, saving and restoring some of these historic homes and buildings. And this was just one episode where it was an hour-long episode, and there are several of them. There's 5, 6, 7 in this seasons, and that kind of stuff intrigues me. That kind of stuff has always intrigued me. I think if you do any traveling at all outside, out in the country, especially, you'll be driving down the road and you'll see this big house set back off of the road that looks maybe a little derelict. Maybe it's abandoned. Maybe somebody lives there. Maybe somebody doesn't. But I think everybody has seen a big house that they go, wow, it would be cool to have that and restore it. That would be cool. And I'm not ready to take on any kind of a project like that. I surely don't want to take one on, especially something of that caliber. But there have been several places that I have seen, over the years in various places that I just have wanted to buy and restore and
Is
just
this
wanted to live there.
is this the same series that they have other places like they have? Because I saw something similar. I don't know if that's the name of the series, but like they have, um, I guess a ruined up in the mountains in Italy, like a ruined town, 8 buildings, and then that's one episode, and another episode they have in Spain, um, up in the mountains as well. They have like these big houses, um, maybe from the 1500s roughly, and people will either like the Spanish people, they were like 10 years ago, it's a nice little documentary. They go up into the mountains, there's no electricity, there's no nothing, like just nothing. And they went up there, and it's all because of their civil war. Those towns were ravaged, and they're basically in the middle of nowhere, so people just abandoned them, or people passed away, whatever the case may be. But what ended up happening is these kids go up there and they take over the area. They just live there. The government can tell them to leave. They've been there for such a long time, and they slowly, with chickens and repairing the roofs and all that stuff, and they transform the village into a working village again.
Uh,
Um,
it's
that,
not the same series, but you were telling me about that before, and I think I'd
okay.
like to go find that. In fact, you were telling me about that a couple of episodes back when we were talking about the cities in China that were built to look like Paris or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or Venice or London. You were talking about that, and I do want to check it out. I need to check it out. I'd like see. I'm interested in that kind of stuff. I just like restoration of history because so much is lost every day. I mean, just to the ravages of time and for quote unquote progress. How many historic buildings have been bulldozed to make something new
Yeah.
or something as silly as a parking lot. And so I like to see things like that being brought back to life. And when you're talking about an entire village, that would be really something to see. I'd love to check that out.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Now I remember, because you asked, well, how did they purchase it? Was it off air or on air?
I think it was off the air. I think it was after the episode was done and you and I were just chatting and you were talking about it. And I was asking, how did they secure deed to the land to do this? Because I mean, anybody can just come up and evict them off the property at any time.
Right.
So, but then again, the land ownership laws and the land use laws in Europe are very different than they are here. So here, for the most part, I mean, unless you get behind in taxes or something like that, when you buy a piece of property, it's yours.
Yeah, you're pretty safe.
You know, unless you get behind in taxes, in which case, going in that they can seize it, but to pay off the taxes. But that's pretty rare anymore. It doesn't happen very often at all, unless somebody passes away and the other family members don't know anything about it. I mean, you see, we have extended families anymore these days,
Yeah.
and there are cousins that you have never met, cousins I have never met, and if one of them passes away, the land is abandoned, and then next thing you know, it's sold off. Well, ownership laws over there are a little bit different in that you're basically leasing from the government. It's not fee simple where you buy the property and you own it. You are leasing, you are buying the right to live there and the responsibility of upkeep on the buildings that are on the place. That's not to say that you can't tear something down unless it's of historic value or protected somehow and build a new house. You can, but you don't physically own it. It still belongs to the government. You just bought the right to live there and build a house. So people tend to be less likely, becomes more a labor of love than it does any kind of an economic thing over there to buy and restore a building.
That's
And
what they were saying. Some of
yeah,
these people.
yeah, and that's the same with this house, this big house that I was looking at Pembrokeshire, is in that the guy was born in that town and grew up looking at that ruin, and from when he was a small kid, he said, I want to buy that and live there. I want to buy it, fix it up, and live there. And it's just something I think a lot of us can relate to. But you know something I'd like to do for sure.
Well, living in cities, I mean, you're constantly reminded about everything because you have people all around you. In these secluded areas, there's also that benefit, and plus you're doing something to maintain, like you were saying, history. I mean, that stuff, if we don't conserve that stuff, it's gone forever, and they are
Right.
kind of important, certain
Sure.
certain structures.
Sure, they're important to the area. They're important regionally. I mean, and you can look at it this way. There's a house, let's just say for the sake of argument, that was built in 1910 down the block, and it's kind of falling into disrepair and it's for sale. Well, there's only one house like that built in 1910. Even if it's a cookie cutter little cottage, and there's 100 more look just like it down the road. That place, that's the only one. And if it's bulldozed to make room for, oh heck, I don't know, another drive-through coffee joint. There are drive-through coffee joints all over the
Everywhere.
place, and there are plenty of lots. There are plenty of places to put a drive-through coffee joint. I just think that it's worthwhile to fix up that old house. I mean, it may be anything from a few code change improvements to cosmetic restoration to a major structure. But if it's worth it to you, I think it's worth it to do it. It does turn into a labor of love. It's real easy to put $100,000 into a property that's only going to sell for 95 after you bought the property.
Yeah, you're not going to win,
But
you know?
then again, if it's worth it to you just to see that place restored, I think it's a worthy project. I really do. I mean, people do it with vehicles all the time. They'll buy and restore an old Model A or Model T or something like that, knowing full well they could never get the money out of it that they've put into it, but they don't care. It's a labor of love. It's theirs, and they want to see it restored to its original glory. And I think that has value in and of itself.
There was a dude that him and his wife, and they have a young child, they bought that sort of town in Italy, and they're like up in the mountain, and the landscape is very rugged terrain going down, and not flat and stuff level. and like they're as isolated as can be. And sometime in the conversation, within the documentary, they explained that, oh, it's about a 10-15 minute drive to town and we have everything there.
Mhm.
But they go up the mountain, nobody's going to go over there, but they're living in this place that's basically ruins, and they fix one room in one house at a time, and they have 8 of them
Okay.
to repair. um and they said, oh yeah, we spent our life savings and the whole bit, and that's just what they do. We need all types of humans, with crazy ideas, because
Sure.
actually they're preserving history. So
Yeah,
I,
they
I
are.
just love that stuff.
And if they weren't there doing that in 20 years, the place could be nothing more than just rubble.
Oh yeah.
So, if nothing else, they are preserving it for somebody else to find in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, they did say that. They said that we're living in a place that we're the people of this era, and then in the future there'll be other people, and we're restoring it for future generations. They
Sure.
actually said that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it has value to you, believe me, it'll have value to somebody else. I mean, as a real estate agent, I took people through and I toured old homes that had gone through the restoration process. One home I showed to a couple that was moving to Oregon. The house was exactly the month we went and toured it. That month it turned 100 years old, which
Holy
doesn't
shit.
sound like much to folks outside of the states. To the 100 years old is just getting broken in. But I mean, this was one of the first buildings in the Rogue Valley to have a working elevator, and it was a private home. And it was an elevator from the kitchen upstairs to a little serving area that was down the hall from a dining room that overlooked the valley. So you had a downstairs dining room and an upstairs dining room up above it. And it just depended upon where you decided you were going to have dinner. But it was a big house. We're talking like 5,000 square foot, 2-story.
Those were well-to-do people.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I mean, the area that this home was in was always considered the rich folks live there.
Area.
Exactly. Today I know there's a few homes out there that are 10, $11 million. So, and this house was no slouch. But, I really do think it's worth saving. It really is. I mean, and it's an expensive proposition, but just looking at the popularity of restorations nowadays, I think it's catching on and getting more and more. It's more and more viable because, I mean, it's an existing structure, and it would be cheaper to live there and work on it while you're doing it, while you're, live there while you're working on it, than it would be to, buy more lumber and build something else that may or may not ever be as nice as what's there now. So,
There's
just my
certain.
opinion.
Yeah, well, totally. Like Miami, there's old pictures of Miami where all the buildings were like old West style in downtown Miami. That's all gone.
Yeah.
But those
Yeah.
were just lumber. There's no,
Yeah.
um, I'm used to in Miami having cinder block for the carcass of the house, and not just like wood framing and all that like you see in other places. I'm just not used to that.
Well, there was a lot of brick and rock foundations here, if you could call them foundations, but a lot of log homes, a lot of log cabins, a lot of this is softwood lumber country. There were a lot of homes built out of just 1 by 12 plank, and then either chicken wire wrapped around it and stuccoed over, or some of them had cedar siding put on it, split cedar siding like you would see a shake roof. There were some brick homes. There were some. There for a while in the 30s, stucco became real popular. So there are some stucco homes, but now they're all the siding, the like vinyl siding or aluminum siding or things like that.
Yeah,
The more modern homes,
we do the stucco here a
right?
lot.
Well, there for a while in the 30s and 40s, stucco was real popular, but it kind of fell out of style. It just didn't match the area. There's a few houses downtown that were built during that time frame. And I mean, you can go, you can kind of see the evolution of these homes were built in the 1910s and then 20s and 30s. And here's these 3 blocks, coming out of downtown area. Here's this 3 block radius where they're all stucco, and then they go back to wood siding.
Oh yeah.
A lot of craftsman homes, a lot of not a lot of ranches in town, but a lot of craftsmen's, a lot of little cottage style and things like that.
We don't
But
we don't we don't see a lot of the siding here. There are some, but for I mean, unless it's like trailers and stuff,
Mhm.
most of it is stucco. That I can think of. It's mostly stucco.
Well, you've got high winds to be concerned with, and we don't. So it's harder to blow down a stucco house than it is to blow down a
Oh yeah.
2x4 or 2x6 frame house with T111.
Oh yeah.
So
Totally.
you know you would think that with all the fires out here out west, there'd be a lot more stucco or brick than there is, but I don't know. It just hasn't worked out that way. So
Yeah, it's weird how different parts of the country. Or I guess not weird, but it's interesting. They have their regional. I was looking at Tennessee,
mm,
and they build their houses on the mountaintops, like overlooking, kind of like what you'd see in what is it, Malibu? Um,
yeah, some of them do. It just depends on where they're at. I mean, if you're out there in the mountains, then yeah. But if you're down in the valleys or down close to some of the rivers, I mean, my only experience in living in Tennessee was Clarksville, which is right outside of Fort Campbell. It's where my wife and I met and married. And you see a lot of small houses out on an acre, half acre, something like that. Not a lot of, well, it's so much has changed. I can't say that anymore. You got to remember, we left there in '88. So, gosh, that's been 30 years ago. So but there were still, it didn't take you long to get out into that rural area. And when you're out on the flat plain out there, there were some plantation homes, some ranch homes, things like that. But you don't have to go very far to get out of town.
oh
So,
yeah, I like Tennessee. I've been looking at that area a lot. I like Gatlinburg itself. I know that um, Sterling. That's one of his favorite places
yeah,
too.
yeah. Just be warned, that area there is very expensive because it's a high tourist area. Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge
Super
area.
high.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
I
So,
mean, no more than Miami in many ways. Miami's pretty darn untenable.
yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But you know what? It's all regional. So it's whatever you can afford. So,
Can I use the restroom real quick? Can you hold us over? I know I always
oh,
put
I
you
don't
in.
know if I do that, if I can do that or not, man. We might just have to. No, go ahead.
All right.
Now's where I do my little dance. What I'll do is for the folks who are listening on the podcast, I'll go ahead and do I'll do a lot of self promotion and just invite everybody to come over to Facebook and look for Trampled Underfoot podcast on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. You can give us a like. You can give us a thumbs up. You can come over and make a comment, ask a question, give us some show ideas. It's 100% up to you. We also have a website. And that's trampledunderfootpodcast.com. And that is provided to us by Harneal Media, webmaster to the stars. You'll see him over there in the chat. Say hello to Steve. He is the webmaster. And harnealmedia.com is his website. He creates websites for makers and the maker community with the maker community in mind. Does an excellent job, and I heartily recommend him. Anyway, if you come over there to the trampledunderfootpodcast.com website, you'll find links to our past shows. It's a big red link right at the top center of the page. It says Wayback Machine. Click that link, you'll be magically transported to an entirely different world. Shows all the way back to number one, episode one, and can just kind of load up your podcatcher there. Give it a good go. We're also available on iTunes, Spreaker, you name it, your absolute favorite podcasting services. iHeartRadio, we're everywhere. So, trampledunderfootpodcast.com. Welcome back, Eloy. Welcome
Hey,
to
that
the
was
show.
a good commercial, dude.
You like that? I may have to record that and keep it for later and use it in other episodes. Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
And it kind of doesn't dovetail into what we're talking about now, but we got a little nostalgic about, ice cream and things like that. We're big on nostalgia
Oh,
uh,
heck yeah.
with this podcast. But I had, I kind of had this idea when we did our top 5 list last week, where you named your top 5 albums of all time, and I named my top 5 albums of all time. And that brought back a lot of nostalgia. We talked about it a lot, and it got me to thinking, in, let's pick a number, say 25 years from now, what do you think people now, growing up now, or living now, young kids now, what do you think in 25 years they're going to be nostalgic for?
Oh man.
When they look back on 2019, they'll be going, man, I remember. What do you think?
Huh. Man, I remember. I am so out of whatever. Here's the problem with that. When we were growing up, and although that we're from different decades, backgrounds, and the universe and everything. Wait, what's the saying? Two guys from different backgrounds, different generations. What's the last?
Different sides of the opposite ends of the continent talking about life, the universe, and everything.
That's right. So we, although we have all those differences in time and location and all this and that, we lived in an era or eras of non-internet sort of dividing our attention. We had whatever we decided on, we stuck with it because we paid the money for a CD, for a VC, VHS tape, or going to the movies, or whatever the heck was, or a book. Now it's all accessible, so I don't know that there's like anything that I'm sure there is, but that
Well,
all people can.
well, I don't know about all people, but like for instance, are you nostalgic? Think about the video games you played, because I have a feeling that's what a lot of it's going to be.
I think you're right.
It's going to be nostalgic for the Marvel Universe movies, the DC Universe movies. It's going to be nostalgia for certain video games. And I don't know about music or TV, because there are so many people who have abandoned TV. They don't even watch it anymore. They're on the streaming services, which that's a viable alternative.
I think so.
But I mean, are there going to be people going, dude, remember Netflix? You remember YouTube?
Well, that's if YouTube, like how many years from now? You said 20, 30
Well,
years from now?
I just picked a number 25 years from now,
Hmm.
because we've seen it come and go. I mean, I know we can't foresee a time when there will be no Facebook.
Right.
But we also know that things can't go on the same forever, and there's going to be an evolution. There's going to be a next big thing, and people are going to jump off of Facebook just like they did MySpace or Friendster.
Things do get better or worse for that matter, and something else takes its place. So, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Heck, there might not be a Facebook or a YouTube.
And we never know what the next big thing is coming. Right now, everybody's walking around with a cell phone. What's the next big thing? Or is there going to be a time where people just aren't using phones anymore and going, God, remember when we used to drag around those damn cell phones? It was the most important thing in the world to me back then. I can't even believe I carried that thing around.
Well, I do want to say this though. There's an issue with Facebook not with YouTube not being around 20, 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And the main issue is, sure, something can replace it, this and that, is all the content is a library of history.
Sure.
So if it goes, it's basically like destroying the libraries at Alexandria.
To a point, yes, but I have a feeling a lot of it's going to be archived in other places. I mean, for instance, if you found out, if YouTube made the announcement today that YouTube was going away, wouldn't you start putting your videos somewhere else?
Oh yeah, and I've already started.
I know I would.
Yeah.
So they would be available online.
I've already started. Well, I've started in multiple places, but very little at a time because I don't take it as serious. But
right,
I know the possibilities there, so I have that on my mind because you want to have that continue.
Right.
You
Right. And I need to check into a few things. I don't know about internet.org, the Internet Archive.
I think you can.
I don't know about uploading video there. The problem with it is I don't know. I don't know about the intricacies of copyright and this, that, and the other. Because there are a lot of people that think that everything on the Internet Archive is in public domain, and it's just not the case.
Right.
A lot of it is, but a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is still copywritten stuff.
Well, that video that I just uploaded, about my dad's history and all that, on YouTube, I needed to find footage for it.
Right.
So I did that trick that you did that one time when we were doing the Led Zeppelin thing, and I typed in, what is it? Something Commons.
Creative Commons.
Yeah.
And public domain. Right.
And it gave you a list of videos, and then I double checked to see if that's the licensing it's got, and I used those for some rare footage. And
I know this is not what you wanted to talk about, but I'm going to throw you a plug here. Get over there to Eloy's channel and watch the documentary, the mini doc that he posted today. It is absolutely amazing. And it does kind of connect a few dots and fits a few people, fits a few puzzle pieces together for me, but it's absolutely an amazing story, and it's 100% backed up. It's 100% documented. Go watch it. And, I think that's a history lesson worth teaching. It really is worth talking about. It's worth discussing with friends and family. There's some pretty grim things that were real life. I mean, but it is 100% history, and it's 100% amazing. And Eloy, you did a fabulous job putting that together. You did an excellent job cutting it together. So as soon as we're done here, get over to Rockin' Woodworks on YouTube and look it up. And it was the last thing he just posted as of today, as of June 11th, 2019. Get over there and look for it. It's worth it.
I mean, the whole thing about that video is that it would not have been possible if Steve Nealon wouldn't have hooked me up with the Ancestry thing, because the idea of collating sort of events in time in the proper perspective, the whole gathering information, brainstorming it, and putting it in a sort of like timeline. I never did that until I started using that Ancestry site.
Yeah.
So it helped, me be able to, like, I learned about it as I knew the stories from word of mouth, but I never did the whole putting together thing. And it's because of the ancestry software that it helped sort of get that out. So it's an incredible tool.
Well, as you and I have talked about, you okay over there?
Sorry.
That's all right. Just making sure this wasn't the last gasp, literally. As you and I talked about many, many times before, when it comes to family trees and family histories, you are not the only one that's looking for this. Somebody else somewhere is looking for it, and
Yeah.
somebody down the road is going to be looking for it too. They're going to run across Eloy, some guy in Miami. Well, who the heck was he? Well, now they got a place to go.
Yeah.
Now you have provided documentation of that story, and it really is a killer video. It's worth every second to watch it. It really is something.
It's a crazy little story. One of the takeaways, because I didn't know until I did the research, I just knew what my father had told me and what I had seen on the internet in association with that. But it's not until I put it together that you could see the story. But that there were people on all sides that were bad.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I
that
do.
angle, like the guy that was like the anti Castro people in Miami, one of those leader guys. He used to shake people down for money.
Oh yeah.
He used to, and my dad said that to me when he was still alive. He said, "You know, son, that guy, he would, there was a Cuban guy in their militia, and he was nervous to go fight, and that guy grabbed him and frickin' in front of everybody just went whack, 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 and he says, 'Be a man, whack, whack,' but like beating hell out of him." And he said, so that wasn't right. So basically, I think that I don't know that he would go that far, but maybe he would. That he had to hang with some very screwed up characters in order to meet a bigger goal.
Well, you're
You know,
talking about the eventual overthrow of a government. We're not talking about
a
you know
playwrights.
hey, we're not talking about altar boys. Okay,
Yeah,
let's just because it is, as you said, a lot of them were soldiers of fortune. Some of these people had a personal axe to grind. Some of these were into it for the cash. You know.
there was one dude. Um, he's of Russian descent, and his last name was Werbel.
Mhm.
Werbel, and he's a famous militia guy or gun, gun guy that sells guns and whatnot. And that guy was involved in every war since he was like an adult.
Yeah.
Vietnam, like you can see his name everywhere, and he appears in this little part of the world as well. And
Oh
these
sure.
people live for that.
Mhm.
I couldn't, I just want to kick back, man. And there's people that they can't help but they want to, be
Yeah.
evil. Not that he was evil. He was very honorable as far as pro America and whatnot. But he's just too much into the killing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
make love, not war, man. Fuck.
Well, this was a
Oops.
couple of years before that, but I can edit that out.
Okay, sorry.
It's a good thing we're not monetized.
Yeah. Well, no, but
I get you. Yeah.
no. That was totally my terrible error. But Joe Rogan doesn't even slip up. Joe Rogan literally throws them out.
Yeah, but we're not Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry about that, folks.
yeah, no worries. No worries.
Oopsie.
Yep. It happens. So, okay. Well,
Boy.
yeah, we got off on a tangent there, but that's kind of what we do. You know, the train of thought gets derailed and you never know where that side spur is going to take you.
Well, yeah, because you get too comfortable.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
hey, it's me.
I'm such a potty mouth.
Well, So where we go from here, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, so that was a good question about the future.
I was just wondering about that. When we think about everything that's going on, some of it we like, some of it we don't like. What are folks going to be nostalgic for down the road? I mean, I'm nostalgic for stuff that happened in the 60s. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I went to a drive-in theater, but I'd love to go again. I don't. I like the thought of going to see a movie on a big screen without the cell phones and the people talking and the kid behind you kicking your seat and stuff like that. Think of all the reasons why you don't want to go to the movie theater. You didn't have that with the drive-in, but you still got that big screen experience.
You know
And
what? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
and if you think of today's technology, um, there are still a few vehicles around that are not so equipped. So you would still have to have the speakers over on the pole, but you could also rig up a BlackBerry, or not BlackBerry, Bluetooth
Yeah,
connection to where you could just, use your own sound system in your vehicle. And, when you think about digital quality through your vehicle's sound system,
it's great.
playing, in stereo or whatever surround sound through your vehicle sound system, that would be absolutely amazing, and not have the distractions of 600 people around you, dropping their milk duds and spilling coke on you or what have you.
Well, I did want to say that one of the bad things about movie theaters for me was, yes, some people talking loud like a few seats away or whatnot, all that stuff. But the worst one is the person that's sitting right behind you that puts their feet right up on your chair, and they make it so the chair doesn't lean the way it's supposed to
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you're sitting there, okay, do I tell them? Is it going to be, you have to tell them, hey,
Yeah.
your feet. But then all of a sudden you've got, this freaking situation. Because,
Yeah.
people that don't think about that from the get go
Mhm.
aren't, they don't care.
Right. Suddenly you're the bad guy because you said something about it.
Exactly.
So, but I mean, the ability to be able to go watch the big screen, the way it was supposed to be watched, and not have to deal with all that. And
Yeah.
that's what I loved about drive-ins, man. You know,
Our when when we got the VHS for the first time, um, I thought that was like the best thing in the world. You could go to the Blockbuster, whatever, the little local, rent your movies, and to me that was a
yeah,
thing that happened in the 80s. Did they have
right.
VHS? They had Betamax right
Well,
before.
there was VHS and Betamax and Laserdisc of all things. Um, it was like a big 12-inch, look like a record album, a
I
33
remember
RPM
them.
record album in a little case, and you put the thing into the machine. But yeah, I remember them saying that when the VCR came out, that was going to be the death of movie theaters. And it
Yeah.
just never happened. It was the death of the VCR because technology changed. And then they said DVD was going to drive it even further because nobody was going to go to the theaters. Well, have you seen the lines for some of these movies?
Oh yeah.
People still want that big screen experience.
Yeah.
And even if you got a 50-inch plasma, it is not the same.
No.
It's just not the same, as a true theater experience.
Yeah, it totally isn't the same, but it's much closer than watching it on a little TV,
Or your
um,
phone.
or your phone. I can't
Yeah.
deal with the phone thing. I can't watch a movie. I don't know how many people watch full on movies on their phone.
You'd be amazed at the number of people who watch stuff on their phone.
I mean, it's like you can't really do. You could do a bunch, but the size of the screen just doesn't cut it for me.
No, it
It
doesn't
just
do it
doesn't.
justice, I mean, the earbuds help as far as audio is concerned, but you still miss so much not being able to see it. Well, heck, I remember going to watch Star Wars at the drive-in. When R2D2 was 15 feet tall on that screen in front of you, you didn't miss a single thing. Just watching it on television, our 35-inch TV in the living room, just watching it there, you don't see as much as you would if it was on the larger screen. You miss so much. And I really honestly think that if it was done correctly, drive-ins could make a huge comeback in a number of ways. If all the positives were publicized and not necessarily preached on, but if they were emphasized, the privacy of your car,
I think it would make a comeback. Yeah.
I really think it could, especially like I say, if it was done on a Bluetooth connection to your vehicle sound system, if so equipped. If not, you still have the speakers on the pole, so you weren't eliminating that. They do take a lot of real estate, but that's why drive-ins were always outside of town. They weren't in big areas that were being developed. And I think in a lot of areas, not everywhere, but I think in a lot of areas they could make a big comeback. And I'd like to see it.
I mean, I never went to one. And I had one down the road.
Yeah.
Never went.
Yep.
It closed.
Now, they used to in some drive-ins. I know the last one I went to in Carson City, Nevada. This was years, oh gosh, we're looking at 85, 86, something like that. They broadcast over FM radio. So you did listen to it through the radio of your car.
Yeah.
But they also still had the speaker on the pole. It just, because they didn't want to be running around jump starting the whole thing, the whole drive-in full of people if you ran your battery dead. But with today's technology, if you don't want to use your car's battery, you could use your phone and play it through your stereo system in your car.
There's options for that. Yeah. The phone can do that job for sure.
Sure, easily. Or even a tablet,
I mean, but then again, you're calling for the comeback of drive-in theaters, but you're not calling for the comeback of like plays and whatnot in theaters.
Because they've never gone away. I mean, I live in a small town. Medford is the big city here, and it's 80,000 people. The whole population of this county is just about 250,000 people. And there is one theater here where they host plays all the time. We have the Oregon Shakespeare Festival every year that's getting ready to start in Ashland, Oregon. There are plays all over the place. So they don't need to be brought back. They're very successful right now because people love live theater. They really do. And you can go in any direction and you can find live theater. So I don't think it needs to be brought back. It's doing just fine.
Oh, wow. Well, we do have a few, but I don't see like a big, like when we were kids, we're like, hey guys, let's go to the theater. All right. Oh, what? You didn't mean movie theater? That never happened. We never did none of that stuff.
That's true. It's mainly for adults, and that's part of the appeal because you generally don't have kids screaming.
That's right.
Yeah, no. you generally don't have to turn around and tell some 50-year-old businessman to quit giving away the plot of the movie. You think he's going to do that? Man, don't go in there. That kind of thing. That generally doesn't happen in live theater. People hush and watch the play, because the dudes up on stage can answer back,
The last movie that I went to see in the theater was the crappiest movie ever, and that was Dumb and Dumber Part 2.
Oh.
Horrible.
I'm really going to age myself here. The last movie I saw in a theater was The Rain Man.
In 89 or
something? 1989, yeah. 89, possibly 90. I was stationed over in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And we were out in the field, and we had about 4 hours to kill. Let's go see a movie. Okay, we went. The Rain Man's playing. Excellent movie. but it was the last time I was in a movie theater.
Wow, dude. So you came back home and never went into a movie
Nope,
theater?
nope. Just waited for it to come out on VHS.
Yeah, you could wait, right?
Yeah, I didn't have to deal with I didn't have to deal with crowds. I didn't have to deal with screaming kids. I didn't have to deal with all that stuff you're talking about, people kicking your chair and stuff like that, and talking about the movie behind you,
And you're
or,
paying good money for it too.
or the 6'8" dude that comes down about halfway and sits down right in front of you, so you're looking around like this trying to see the screen.
The
You know,
tall guy always sits in front, or the lady with like a lot of hair.
yeah. Especially down south, big hair was a way of life.
Man,
But so yeah, I'm nostalgic for drive-in. I'm nostalgic for drive-in hamburger joints. Now there is a place called Sonic, but I'm not much for them. But things like that, I like that kind of thing. I like that 50s style. I wish they did it with A&W still, with the car hop that would come out and deliver and hang the little tray on the passenger on the driver's side window.
but
I
nowadays
like that kind of thing.
would that work nowadays? Because like people a little bit more like
Yeah,
sick of.
Sonic is proving that it does work because they just keep opening more and more and more of them.
No, I'm saying
So
like, the employee coming out to like, oh great, I've got to bring this food to that whole attitude. Did they have that before? Where people like, oh well, heck, here's your meal. I mean, because it's a little bit inconvenient for the darn employee, and people have attitudes nowadays.
well,
See,
but that going in, and they don't have any problem getting employees at Sonic. I mean, that going in. This is the job. You are going to be a runner. You're going to deliver food out there to the people in your car. It was a different culture back then, and I'm talking about up into the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. There were still a few joints like that up here, and it was just a little bit of a different culture. It was a culture of hot rods, and you went out to places like that to be seen. You wanted your car to be seen. You wanted to be seen. And all your friends were there. And you'd pull in and you'd park and, take your order over the speaker. Then the car hop would come out. You paid them for it. They made change for you right there. But you might be there 2 hours. You got finished with your meal. They came out and they took the tray. You hit a little button on the menu board right there, and they'd come out and they'd collect your tray. You backed your car out and you parked in a different spot out here, so somebody else can come get their food, and you hung out. But that was the local meeting up spot, and it was a different culture. You came to meet people, you came to meet up with your friends, and you came to be seen. And it was where everybody was on Friday and Saturday nights. Sometimes you'd go to a movie. If you didn't go to a movie, you go hang out, go get a burger, or go get a Coke, whatever. Just pull in and park off to the side and don't even go up. They had a walk up window where you could walk up and order a couple of Cokes and then go hang out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was about hanging out, really.
Yeah. And then the mall's open and it moved inside. People started hanging out at the food court where you would do the same thing. But it got away from the vehicles. It was less about cars and hot rods and low riders and things like that. And it was more about just hanging out in the mall.
In the food court.
In the food court. Yeah.
Yeah. That was in the 80s, right? That's when that transition really happened.
Yeah. Well, that's when the transition happened everywhere else. We didn't get a mall here until the late 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I left this valley in 82, the mall was a gravel lot. It had been bulldozed flat, and that was it for about 8 years. There was no progress. They'd come in every once in a while, chop down the weeds, lay a little bit more gravel, and that was it. And then so I left, and it was a gravel lot. And we got back. There's a mall there. Oh, they finally built it.
Amazing.
So,
well, I'll tell you one other thing about malls and all that. The other day I was watching. It's funny because YouTube is such a thing. I ran across, because your imagination is, you're only limited to what you can type. I found an abandoned mall in Pennsylvania that was built on the site of like, was it a coal thing or no, where they pour from their metal production, they pour the, what do you call that, the the
Slag.
the slag,
Uh-huh.
and they would pour it over this hillside, and I don't know how many tons, but the whole place was like just a slag fest.
Mhm.
And they built a mall with like all the stores, Sears, and this and that. Well, the mall, they added a new road that bypassed the road that the mall was in front of, and so the mall became a dead mall,
Huh.
and it's still open. And you'll have like a Cinnabon in
Uh-huh.
an empty cafe, in an empty whole area,
Uh-huh.
food court, and then you'll have a store that sells like whatever, and all the other stores are like darkened. But
Uh-huh.
these people rent out space there because and the major stores open from the outside, but don't have access inside the mall, and like the ceiling panels are falling. There's black, what do you call that stuff that
Old.
there's black mold. I
Oh
swear
man.
to you, like way up there. There's black mold. The elevator, you press the button, it'll just shift a little bit. Eh,
It doesn't even work. Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Wow. Do you think that now there's something right there? Do you think in a few years people are going to be nostalgic for the mall?
I,
I don't know.
what was cool about malls for me was, for me, and maybe I'm weird, but bookstores, because I could go get all the Dungeons and Dragons and comic book stuff and this and that, and then you had your National Geographics as well. As a kid, um, cracking up. So the bookstores, the arcades, you'd go in there, with a handful of quarters, and you'd have all the games. So the arcades were cool,
Mhm.
and heck, the record stores, you know,
Yeah.
those three
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area in a little town called Fremont, little town, uh, back then it was bigger than this is now. We had the Fremont Hub, they call it. The Hub was kind of an open air mall. You had one, and I don't even remember the stores that were there, but it was open air. There were awnings that came out into over a center courtyard, but you were still outdoors and you walked underneath those awnings, and
Yeah.
it was like two strip malls that faced each other.
Yep. Yep. We have one of those.
You had a big store at one end and it was open at the far end. But you could walk down there and there was Orange Julius, there was this bookstore, there was these three clothing stores, what have you, and record shops and poster shops. I mean, places that specialized in posters and flags and tapestries and things like that, just pop art of all kinds
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Those t-shirt, rock shirt stores, and the window, the two windows and the door in the middle, and then they'd have shirts displayed from the bottom of the window to the top on both sides, and they sell all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
really cool.
And there was a theater off outside, the Fox Theater, off out in the parking lot. And God, I should have got frequent flyer miles. I used to go to the Fox Theater so often. My gosh, this is where I watched half of my movies. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if folks are going to be nostalgic for malls. I see around here anyway. The mall is the mall. Everybody knows where it's at. Okay, fine. But I see a lot of new stores opening up outside of town.
Right.
So traffic is moving away from the city and moving away from the mall. And you've got like Lowe's over here, then a pet shop over here, and then an office supply place over here. All the big national brands, all the national names that you know. And but they're further and further out of town. Now, someplace like the Home Improvement Center, they need a lot of real estate because they're selling lumber, they're selling, all kinds of stuff, big stuff that takes up space. But as those places go, so does local business. I mean, I showed you a picture one day that I found of, it was Medford in, I think it was 1917, at one particular corner, and one of the buildings was Hubbard Brothers Hardware. Well, Hubbard Brothers Hardware became Hubbard's Hardware, and it was owned by the same family up until a year ago. But they moved out of that building downtown, moved out here on the one of the main highways into a facility that's like 20 times the size.
Oh
And it was
wow.
simply to take advantage of all the traffic going to and from the home center and Costco and Walmart and all those others down there, you know. And they finally sold about 2 years ago. There was nobody left in the family that wanted to continue running the business, but it had been a staple in this valley, and it's under new ownership, but it's still called Hubbard's.
Oh wow.
But there are a lot of ma and pa businesses that were downtown that just couldn't stay afloat downtown, that are moving out of town because that's where the traffic is going.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of names that have been here forever in downtown Medford moving out of town and setting up where the traffic goes.
We used to have a lot of little guitar shops, repair shops, and guitar, just music instruments and all that. And I don't see as many anymore either, because we used to have a lot of them. Because there was the time for rock and roll where guitar was like the
Yeah.
mainstay, and all kids wanted to play guitar. You don't see that much anymore. I mean, you do on the internet, but locally, it's not like you used to see people carrying guitars around.
Yeah. But you still see it around here every once in a while. I mean, I don't care where you live. If you look long enough, you don't see it as often. But if you look long enough, you will see a guy on a motorcycle with a guitar on his back, with a guitar case on his back. And you can only assume it's really a guitar in there. But
Yeah,
that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you still see it out here every once in a while. Certain people will busk in certain areas of town. It's not super big, so they don't stay long.
yeah,
But it's usually during lunch hour, then they're gone.
yeah.
When folks are coming out of the offices to go find something to eat. But it's we have only ever had, I think, at the maximum 3 local music shops like that. Because, like I say, it's not a big town. And I'm talking about just in Medford, up in Ashland, at the south end, about 15 miles off the border. There's a couple, 3 there too. And it's a college town, so the demographic there is a lot younger. So it's catered to that. It's also catered more for tourism. Medford is more where the locals go to buy, what have you. And there have been, I say at the max, 3 small local places. And there are 2 right now, and Guitar Center.
They're
And
the ones that get most of the traffic.
not really, because people like that local thing. I go to Tom's Guitars downtown Medford because I know the people there. I trust the people there. And everything I've ever wanted, they've had, or they'll order it for me and get it to me within a couple of days. No store can have everything. But they have a lot more than, a person would. Now, I sound like I'm advertising for Tom's. I'm not. There's a couple of others. But, I just prefer the small local joints and having a relationship with those people.
Right. So that's the difference between that
Mhm.
personalized thing and Amazon.
Yeah.
But Amazon, I mean, you can order it, it comes to your house.
Right.
Sometimes there's issues, sometimes, most of the time not. But I think that's kind of like they've destroyed, you know, other possibilities for other types of businesses, because online it arrives at your house, you get home, it's waiting for you. Boy,
If it hasn't been stolen off your porch, or if it didn't get
right.
misdelivered to somebody else's house.
Well, that's
There's advantages and disadvantages to all of it. And I think that's my main gripe with the buy local crowd. It's like, really? Where'd you get them shoes? That store, they don't have that store here. Where'd you
Right.
get them shoes? Don't tell me to buy local when you're ordering stuff off Amazon. I order off of Amazon too, but I don't, I'm not sitting there to preach buy local. If I can't get it local, yeah, I will go buy it on Amazon. Or
And
if I
there's
can get
also
it, for a cheaper price. I mean, I'm
that,
not stupid.
that's exactly it.
Hmm.
You know, you know, I don't want to be also the guy not to buy local, but buy local. $30 more than you could get it over here on this internet site. You
Well,
know?
not only that, some things are just not available. Like there are certain materials that I want to cut on the CNC that I cannot get locally. I can't get them. Nobody around here sells this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have tried, I've gone to sign shops and tried to order a couple of sheets of this stuff and they just won't do it. So I have to go online and buy it. So when you're in a situation like that, or when I was building the CNC router, the lead screw I used, I could order it online for $40 for a 6-foot length, or I could go down to this local place and pay $172 for that same 6-foot length.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm quoting real prices. It was $40 online and 170 something on here.
I can't wait. I can't wait for some time in the future where, like, let's say you order food, like, I don't care, a pizza or heck, a Kentucky Fried Chicken, whatever you want, and it drones over to your house. It comes, and it just into your hands, and you just walk in. Thank you, drone, and it just flies away.
You say that, and I immediately switched over to the YouTube to see is anybody going to put it in the chat. They do that. We can get that here.
I know they have some like test areas and all
Yeah.
that, but it's got to be under a certain weight.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
talking about, you want fine dining, here from Merlot Cha Cha, and it comes, over to you and stuff.
Merlot Cha Cha, excellent name for a garage band. Excellent name for a garage band. Well, nobody has spoken up, so I'm guessing that service isn't available yet. But there are people out there right now going, we could do that.
Oh no, Linda said clam chowder, so the drone would have to be very steady.
Well, put it on a gimbal mount so that it can swing and
Okay,
be
well,
all right.
we're solving problems already.
That's it. Get on it, Publix. Get on it. Chowder for the masses.
Yep. I'll just say one last thing. Sarah from Wartooth Designs, she posted a thing, like just a little joke meme or whatnot, where it's like a popsicle, a clam chowder popsicle. Did you see that?
I saw that and I have restrained myself from saying anything, but I thought that was absolutely hilarious
It was super funny.
for those hot Miami days. Clam
Oh,
chowder popsicle. Half of me says yuck, and the other half of me says, what the hell's the matter with it?
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I would eat it. In any event, I think we're good, huh?
I think we're good too. And, as I said before, folks, head on over to our Facebook page, Trampled Underfoot Podcast on Facebook. Leave us a question, leave us an answer, demands for payment, whatever. We can take it. We're grown ups. Same thing with the Trampled Underfoot Podcast.com website. We have a contact us page.
That's right.
And you can send us show suggestions. Is there something we have never talked about that you want to hear our take on? Do you have a challenge for us? Give it to us straight. We want to hear from you. We want to know if we're doing a good job. We want to know if we're doing a bad job. We want to know if there's something that you just don't want us to talk about anymore, please.
Yeah. Or talk more of. You got to give them the counter, balance to that.
That's true. But I figure I'm using reverse psychology. Maybe there's something we just talk about too much that they don't want to hear anymore.
Yeah. Also, go to the Wayback Machine. We have past episodes there on trampledunderfootpodcast.com. And last week we did top 10 albums all time that we feel are highly important.
That's
Oh,
right. Each of us chose our top 5 albums of all time and put them together to make our top 10 list.
that's right. So next week we'll catch you. Have a good one. And I think it's time to go. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for hanging out with us, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.